And we are live. Hey, my name's Scoutkennedy, and we've been talking a lot about the NFL draft and all of the teams and all of the moves and all of the makers and shakers. And we're going to bring in a friend of mine who covers the New Orleans Saints at saintsnewsnetwork.com, and Kyle Mosely. He's real easy to find at Saints News on Twitter. Kyle and I have known each other a little over a year, 2 years, worked together over at Sports Illustrated. He is tied in and tapped in at Saints. And this one's going to be a little different. We're not going to talk so much draft because the Saints are at the back end, but we'll still talk a little bit of draft. We want to talk free agency and cap hell that's very familiar to Falcons fans and Saints fans. Maybe we're just not very good at math down here in the NFC South or something. I want to talk about a little life after Drew Brees and Taysom Hill. Is he the guy? There's been a swap of administrative staff. The new general manager for the Atlanta Falcons, Terry Fontenot, comes from the New Orleans Saints. And I want to talk to Kyle and see what he was like covering him on an everyday basis with New Orleans, what Falcons fans can expect. So without further ado, I want to bring in my friend Kyle Mosely. And like I said, you can find him real easy. Kyle Mosely is at Saints News on Twitter. And Kyle, it is good to see you.
Hey, great to be seen, Scott. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing well, always. Now tell me I'm wrong here, because I've lived all over the country, and I think that one of the most underrated, almost fun rivalries is the Atlanta Falcons and New Orleans Saints. It doesn't get a lot of national press because, frankly, for the life of most of these franchises, we haven't been worthy of a lot of national press. That's changed over the last decade or so.
Yeah, it's changed. You have Matt Ryan. We call him Matty, choking on ice. He's been a nemesis to us. But, the Atlanta Falcons and Saints rivalry goes back such a long way back to the early 70s, really to the 60s when these franchises first got started, because the Saints tried to get the franchise before Atlanta, but Atlanta was granted before the Saints, right? So you have the rivalry, you have the two cities who are connected because you have families, friends who lived in Atlanta or lived in New Orleans previously, and these guys are, for lack of a better word, enemies when the season starts, but friends outside of the season.
Well, and part of that, I think, is because the national media just picks on the South so much that we bond together. When you're talking, yes. Why does the SEC claim everything? I'm like, do you know how the rest of the world treats the South? That's why. That's why we take pride in who we are down here. I went to Auburn, and on Sundays after a Saints-Falcons game coming down 85, it would be streams of hootats heading home. Yeah. And it's been a lot of fun. So this is something I want to do a lot more. And a bunch of people are jumping in. Make sure you hit those comments. Hit that subscribe button if you're watching this today or if you're watching it later. But hit those comments. Making this interactive is a lot of fun. Now, yes, you mentioned Matt Ryan. And, I feel like Drew Brees has been torturing the Falcons for, most of my life. And I think I'm older than he is. So what is it going to be like? Is Taysom Hill the guy? His numbers weren't bad, but he's not Drew Brees. It's a very different quarterback. It's going to be a different type of atmosphere. What's life going to be like with the Saints with Taysom Hill at the helm? And is he going to be the guy?
Time out. So we don't know if Taysom is going to be the guy. Now,
there you go.
Sean Payton did keep his word. He did tell Taysom, if something happened to Brees, I'll let you be the starter, right? Kept his word. Taysom hit, for his credit, he went 3-1 in that stretch. Mm-hmm. But
73%. I mean, the numbers are there. So, that's why I want to talk to you, because I can look at a stat sheet. I can see 73%, 3-1 record, 2-1 touchdown interceptions. But is that going to sustain itself over 16 games?
Yeah, I mean, he did beat the Falcons, granted. He did beat the Denver Broncos, granted. But in that 4-game stretch, it wasn't a difficult 4-game stretch to win. Right. The Eagles game was the last game, which really encapsulated why the Saints may be looking elsewhere, because Taysom doesn't make the decisions. His decision making wasn't as quick as Drew Brees. Nobody's going to be
is.
like a 20-year guy, right, Scott? I mean,
and somebody that is, I said he's kind of been the bane of my existence when I was scouting high school football players, and he became the poster child for every 5'11", 6-foot quarterback in the suburbs of my entire life. I'm like, guys, there's one Drew Brees. I know there's a zillion 6-foot guys out there, but there's one Drew Brees.
One Drew Brees, man, unique character, a good character guy. But what makes Drew special was his decision making, being able to get the ball down the field correctly to the right person at the right time. And he did it in less than, I think the last calculations were around 2.3 seconds, right?
Elite
stat.
Elite. Yeah, when you're running 7-on-7s, you get a 4 or 5 second clock when you're playing those. He's doing it in half of that. And he's not just giving dink and dunks. He's the ball down the field.
Right. And Scott, if you have a guy who's a quick decision maker like a Brees, a Brady, a Rodgers, or someone to that nature in that ilk, you have the ability to be able to catch defenses off guard. So therefore, when you look at the NFC South, Drew Brees took advantage of any defense like the Panthers defense that had questionable secondary. Even the Buccaneers defense had questionable secondary. So he knew where he wanted the ball to go to. It wasn't, let's try to wait to see how the defenses are going to react. They were going to be proactive. He and Sean Payton were always on the attack, always aggressive.
Well, and that's big. So we know what makes, so many things make Drew Brees special, but how is he going to be replaced? What's it look like at the quarterback position for 2021?
Until I see Drew Brees cross that stage in Canton, Ohio, with his yellow jacket on, Drew Brees has not retired yet. and a lot of people are saying, "Oh, he's gone." Yeah, look, man, that guy's competitive, and I know all of the injuries as of late have really taken its toll on his body. But to see Tom Brady at his age do what he did, to know that they were a couple of wins away from going to the Super Bowl themselves, it really has to be in the back of his mind, can he make this run again? I'm not sure his body can, but the competitive nature of a Drew Brees will always be there.
Yeah, Kyle, we haven't seen it since the steroid era of the mid-90s where guys got better after 35 years old in baseball. This is crazy. Matt Ryan's going to be 36 to start the season, and we're talking about maybe we get 4 or 5 years out of him. I'm like, man, I could hardly get out of bed without snap, crackle, and pop at 36 years old. For goodness sakes,
you and I both. I'm 54, man, and I'm not half the man I used to be, right? So you have to really think about.
I always say that this version of myself could beat up any previous version of myself. I just couldn't catch him.
Can't catch him, can't beat him, can't breathe like him, can't be as mobile, right? Hey,
the legs are gone, no way. So
yeah.
As we take a look, obviously the quarterback situation, as you're saying, isn't 100% settled by any stretch of the imagination.
No.
And we can get into free agency, a little bit as well. But taking a look at the team with the draft coming up. Free agency coming up. What are the Saints? Where are they trying to fill holes, or at least if they don't have holes, they're 12-14. Get better. Where are they looking to get better?
Well, you have to always be concerned with the offensive and defensive lines. Now, people say, well, the Saints' offensive line looks like it's intact. Well, you still have Teron Armstead, who is going to be in his final year of his contract. Right. You still have
that's a big number on that too.
Yeah, and we still think there's going to be some restructuring to his contract as well, right? And you have Ryan Ramczyk, who is owed a huge contract coming up, the All-Pro. And you have Marshawn Lattimore, who is owed a lot of money as well if they decide to keep both of those individuals. Now, going forward, the Saints always built from the inside out. They always took pride in the defensive line, offensive line.
What a concept. This is where I take my daily shot at Thomas Dimitroff for building a 7-on-7 team and focusing on skill players on offense and neglecting the lines. But go on.
Yeah. Look, and think about it, man. And I think that's why you have Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson. Those guys are interested in leaving their current teams because there was not a much of an emphasis on protecting the quarterback. And Drew Brees was protected very, very, very well. Now, he did have some holes when Larry Walford a couple of seasons ago in that playoff game against Minnesota. I think that was the nail in the coffin for him, how he allowed the penetration on Brees much of the game. Mm-hmm. And he was overweight as well. So, and also you look at the young kid, Cesar Ruiz, you give him some slack because he's a rookie. Now he's going into his second season, but he was the one who allowed that penetration that had Brees to get sacked in the 49ers game, crush ribs. We know the story, right? So you look at the Saints always build from the inside out, but they still have a need at wide receiver. They still have a need at cornerback. They still have a need at safety. Think about it. We don't know if the Saints are going to tag Marcus Williams, extend a contract to Marcus Williams, or allow him to test the free agents market. Now, the problem with that, if you go back in time, they let that happen with Malcolm Jenkins, who is back with the team. And look what Jenkins did. He matured, evolved, became a leader, and he's one of those veterans that you need to have in your locker room. Mm-hmm. Marcus Williams is maturing as a leader in the locker room as well. Now, a lot of people say, well, what about the Minnesota Miracle? What have you? That was then. He was a rookie.
The robbery. Yeah, the Minnesota robbery.
Yeah. It was the Minnesota heart attack for most Whodats.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You know, there's no other way to put that. That was just when you see something so bad that you get a rule change because of it, you know, it's just bad.
Yeah.
But
well,
anyway, you know, like so there's as with any good team, you're looking through the Saints motto is be strong in the trenches. And then, you know, as we get to the draft, you know, do we start looking, you know, with the 28th overall pick, do you start looking for best available? You know, who do you think the Saints could be looking at to try and fill some of those needs, or go best available player because there's not necessarily a dire need that has to be filled?
I wouldn't be surprised if New Orleans decided to trade out or trade up. Mm-hmm. If they had the ability to do so. I think there's good talent, especially offensive line talent. They still need to have a guard that can be versatile, that can either be that swing guy going inside out or and really be kind of like Clemente was for the Saints when he was with those guys, right? Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't be surprised if they looked there. But if you have a guy like Mac Jones to fall at 28,
he ain't coming that far, dude. He ain't coming that far. You're about to see so much bluffing from the Atlanta Falcons at 4 about Mac Jones that they're going to do their damnedest to get somebody to panic and come up and jump up and get him in the top 5. Him and Trey Lance aren't falling past 10. I'll be shocked. I'll be shocked.
I really believe Trey Lance, in all of my studying these quarterbacks, is the best prospect. I like Zach. Mm-hmm. Don't get me wrong, but Trey Lance, his mobility, his ability to read before, read the offense and read the defense.
Are we taking Trevor Lawrence out of this conversation because he's pretty special?
Trevor Lawrence is not. How do I say this? Trevor Lawrence, in my opinion, is a great quarterback. He has to be in the right system for him to evolve into an elite quarterback as an NFL quarterback, right? So I'm looking at the intangibles, And when I heard the trainer, offseason trainer for Trey Lance talk about how he was prepared in the system and the responsibilities they gave him as a quarterback to read the defenses, to be able to make the calls, the assignments, the protections, and everything else. That's NFL-like, right? Trevor Lawrence,
a lot like Deshaun Watson. For those of you that have watched before, I have raved. I've called Deshaun Watson the smartest quarterback I ever scouted. He's from Gainesville, Georgia, which is about 20 miles from where I live now. And he's the smartest quarterback I ever scouted. So if you're getting mentioned in that same breath, you're going to be successful if you've got the physical tools to back it up.
And guess who's training Trey Lance? The guy who trained Deshaun Watson last season. Before this really all-pro season that Deshaun Watson should have had if he had a better team under him, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, Deshaun Watson that's a whole other conversation about where he could end up. And we talked with the with Alan Poupar at the Miami Dolphins about them putting together a package and what he would mean to the Miami Dolphins, or really to anybody. I mean, a 25-year-old with his resume is worth basically name your price. You know, how many first rounders because would he be worth to it? So, you know, if you can have that in Trey Lance, then you're going to have something pretty special. You mentioned trading down in interior line. I think that it would be. I think this is a very good draft for the interior line. Second, third rounders in there. You know, you trade out another second rounder and get two of those guys. I think you're in pretty good shape now. Free agency, cap hell. You know, New Orleans Saints fans are probably tired about hearing about salary cap. I know Atlanta Falcons are, but when I look at the Saints, I'm like, wow, the Saints are in worse shape right now in the cap. But listening to you talk about these contracts, a lot of them are in the final year. Well, nobody ever gets the final year of their contract. They either get waived or they get extended. So where did the Saints finish up here? And can they be a player on the free agent market besides just trying to re-sign their own guys?
Well, the Saints have been in cap hell for the past, 15 years almost, right? We call it Loomisnomics. Mickey Loomis and his way of handling the cap is just astounding people every year. Every season we come on, who are the Saints going to sign? Can they re-sign? Can they restructure? Can they void some contracts? Can they extend some contracts? You know, it's always the same topics over and over and over again. He and Kai Hartley, the VP of Football Administration for the New Orleans Saints, are fantastic at how they're able to manipulate the contracts, legally manipulate the contracts, and be able to find the talent out on the free agency market. Go ahead.
And it works in the favor of the billion-dollar industry instead of the player, because the contracts are basically a series of club 1-year options.
Right.
They'll keep that's a 5-year contract as long as it's good for us. If it's not, you're gone.
Right.
You know, and so it becomes a lot easier in that regards, and that's why you see holdouts. That's a different conversation. So, you know, do you think they can be a player in free agency, and is there anybody they might target? I mean, is quarterback out of the option?
Well, I did have a conversation with a representative of Jameis Winston. Mm-hmm. And Jameis, of course, early on in this offseason, Sean Payton has been pretty consistent in saying that Jameis is their number one target for free agency, right? They have to have a quarterback they can be able to trust. I don't know if they can do any deal with Seattle to get Russell Wilson. I don't think I know Deshaun Watson is completely off the table, right? So what do the New Orleans Saints do? Do they wait to see if Drew Brees finally retires or not? His decision really allows the Saints to be able to make the moves they need to make, right? And Drew Brees at this time, you push one domino, the rest of them are going to fall because of his decision making.
Right.
So, but I still believe the target has to be number one, Jameis Winston, and getting him into play. He's comfortable with the New Orleans Saints. He likes it in New Orleans. He likes it.
I mean, that's home. The kid's from Mobile, you know. That's
not too far from home.
45 minutes away from home, yeah.
Right. His dad can see him. and be able to be at the Superdome. And look, you look at everything, it falls into place. This guy was a former number 1 overall draft choice, Heisman Trophy winner, 5,000-yard passer. The problem has been, how does he handle the turnovers? Can he, control the ball? That was the problem with Taysom Hill, to be honest with you. I think with all the other stuff that Sean Payton saw out of Taysom, ball security is the major issue for him. If you cannot hold on to the football, we have an issue here in New Orleans. So, but I think James has learned that. And I think he's learned not to go for the big play.
Well, and that
not to be the superstar.
Yep, that comes with maturity. And frankly, it would come with being on a better team where you don't always feel like you have to do it on your own, where you have to do something special, for lack of a better word, manage the game a little bit better. So as we look at the Saints and we go into the 2021, coming off a 12-4 year, ended on slight of a down note, but still, it was a 12-4 season and, one of the 2 or 3 best teams in the league. The Falcons have got to get better. They're not going to be 4-12 again. They're going to be better. That's an 8-8 roster at worst. With some competent coaching, that's an 8-8 team at the worst.
Okay, you make me sit up on this one.
Yeah, the Panthers, you think they've got to improve some, at least a new coach bounce or something. The Buccaneers are coming off a Super Bowl. A lot of question marks with the Saints. What are we looking for with the Saints coming to 2021?
You need to have a Saints team that can challenge for the Super Bowl title, point blank. Mm-hmm. I interviewed Jeff Duncan, Jeff from The Athletic. And Jeff wrote this book right over my shoulder, Peyton and Brees, the 2 architects of the greatest offense in the history of the NFL. This 15-season track they had together, they put together the best offense anybody has ever seen. But you only have 1 Super Bowl to show for it, right? Mm-hmm. You did win. But
reminds me of my Atlanta Braves and the best rotation anybody's ever seen.
Right.
It's got to be more than just one aspect of the game, right?
Right. Yes, Smoltz and those guys, and and why can't we get more championships hoisted in Atlanta? I remember that because I was in Atlanta at that time. But the thing, Scott, let's be honest. If you don't put the Super Bowl titles up, what good are the records, the numbers, the stats, and everything else? And your legacy is in question as well. And I think, of course, Drew Brees is the first ballot Hall of Fame. All they need to do is go to the podium, say for his candidacy, Drew Brees. And okay, that's enough said. But what does that do for Sean Payton? Mm-hmm. What about his legacy as the offensive mind, the genius?
I think one's enough. Honestly, I think one's enough. If we're going to talk legacy, I think one's enough. Dan Marino isn't ever talked about as the greatest of all times because of that reason. If he gets 1, I think he's in a different conversation. So I think one's enough for legacy purposes.
For Brees or for Sean Payton?
For Sean Payton or Brees. I think their legacy is secure. I don't know that it's going to be tough for anyone to be the greatest of all time anymore. Someone else has. I'm running out of fingers and toes to count Super Bowl rings for Tom Brady, but Brees' legacy is safe.
I would love to say that about Peyton because he's a great coach, and I love him, number 1. But look how long it took Tom Flores to actually get the recognition he deserved with 2 Super Bowls, mm-hmm. Right?
Well, I think he'll be okay, and I don't like talking. I think so much stuff gets wrapped up into legacy that I like talking. That we forget about the games, and frankly, that's what turned me off a little about the NBA. Is everything was always about legacy. I'm like, they haven't finished the series yet. Let's, I'm interested in who's going to win the game. Let's forget about if they lose this game, what happens 20 years from now. That's ridiculous.
Well, let me set this up for you. I believe if Drew Brees does decide to retire, Sean Payton is going to have a great time coming up with new plays, new ways to attack offenses with a new weapon. That's think about it. He won with Teddy Bridgewater. He won with Taysom Hill. So what can he do with a Jameis Winston?
Yeah, now you can mix different. Now you can throw different looks out there. So Steve Kennedy, yes, there is a relation. Thank you, Steve.
Hey, Steve.
When do you think Brees might make a decision?
Well, we hear coming soon, right? And I think the activity with some of the press conferences are heating up, and I believe we may hear something within the next week or two. Now, Sean Payton said that a week or two ago, right?
Free beer tomorrow.
Yeah. Look, man, Thomas Morstead was released by the Saints. And Thomas Morstead, if you guys don't know him, he was a rookie when he kicked ambush in the Super Bowl, right? He's a longtime punter for the New Orleans Saints. And we in the media, when we listened to him saying his goodbyes, we were kind of weepy as well. So I know when Drew Brees decides to finally hang it up, I don't think there's going to be less than more emotion out there, but I think it's also going to be some resolution to this whole matter, right? What do the Saints do after that?
Yeah, because I mean, you want to talk about legacy. You string a team along and stay a year or two too long. That's how you end up tarnishing your legacy. You know, it's going to be. I think Drew will do what's best for the Saints. Going back to team needs, S. I don't know who S is. S, what's your name? Type it into the chat. So we need outside linebackers to start that run, to stop that run from outside quarterbacks. Maybe I don't think you're starting to see more and more runners. But and you can never have enough playmakers. I mean, I grew up with that incredible group of linebackers that the Saints had with Sam Mills, Ricky Jackson. Who am I forgetting? Those are the two I remember.
Don Johnson, as well as Pat Swilling. Yeah,
just spectacular.
The Dawn Patrol.
Those are the type of players that made me grow up liking linebackers. You know, I was a child of the 80s, for goodness sakes. That's LT years. And like I said, Ricky Jackson and Sam Mills are spectacular players. Now, before I let you go, we're right here on the half hour. Terry Fontenot. We talked a little bit about caponomics, and I don't know how much Terry had anything to do with that, but the new general manager of the Atlanta Falcons has come from the Saints, lifelong Saints for the most part. Yeah. We talked about, the culture shouldn't be that much different, so it should be an easy transition from him. So what can Falcons fans expect? And I think I heard a lot of what we can expect earlier when we talk about how he wants to build a team. And frankly, music to my ears, because I don't want to trade 5 picks for a wide receiver ever again. Right. I don't care if he is one of the greatest of all times. Right. That's too much. I want to see some smart decision making on how to build a championship team. What can we expect from Terry Fontenot and the Atlanta Falcons?
Just what you said, smart decision making, a guy who knows how to build a team. He has a great way of evaluating talent. He has a great way of understanding the business side. He was groomed from a scout all the way to the front office in the Saints, specifically by Mickey Loomis, right? So Terry's a great guy, number one. And I was like, man, can Mickey just stay at executive VP and let Terry become the GM?
Yeah, you got to grow up, right. At some point.
Yeah.
And I think the Saints fans probably wish him well, would be my expectation. It's like, listen.
Saints fans love Terry Fontenot, what he's been able to do for the organization. He, as well as Jeff Ireland, were very good teaming together. Ireland was more with the college recruiting, Terry Fontenot with the pro personnel. Think about this. These guys were responsible for bringing in Alvin Kamara, for scouting out Michael Thomas and those guys. So they know what they're doing. And I wish Terry well much later than right now, but I think Terry's going to be phenomenal. I can't say anything more than he's just a great, great guy. And he's going to be a phenomenal general manager for the Atlanta Falcons.
I think the new regime is off to, it's early days. and everybody's in the honeymoon period. But I think the new regime is off to with Arthur Smith and the power of football again. For as bad as the Falcons have been, and like I said, this is almost a golden age for the Atlanta Falcons. But even when they were bad, we could always run the football. We got Gerald Riggs, William Andrews, Ironhead Craig Hayward.
Right.
Bring in Warwick Dunn. We could always run the football. It's frustrating watching them line up in 3rd and 1 and throw a ball over somebody's head. So I'm looking forward to what they can bring to the table. Kyle, I want to thank you for your time tonight. Again,
sure.
Let me put his slider right there. Kyle Mosely at Saints News is where you're going to find all of his stuff on Twitter, and he's going to funnel all of his stuff through Twitter. And I want to thank you for joining me. And here, Atlanta guy, New Orleans guy, let's do this again, and we'll do it. We'll do it a lot. I think we're going to have a lot in common.
Yeah. And Scott, please make it a point for us to be able to have you on as well. We want to pick your brain on the Bayou Blitz podcast.
Absolutely.
And go follow us at Saints News and at KTMOZE. You can follow me as well there on Twitter, and go to saints.media, and that'll take you directly to our site on Sports Illustrated.
Okay. Well, Kyle, thank you so much, and we'll talk to you again soon. All right. Well, that was Kyle Mosely. Like I said, an expert on the New Orleans Saints. And we didn't talk as much draft this time, but I think if you're a Falcons fan watching or a fan of the Saints watching, you got your time worth, and we appreciate him coming on. Later this week, we've got John McCarron. We're going to be talking about the Detroit Lions and a very intriguing pick. And I'm also going to try and work with someone to get a Pac-12 overview. So we'll talk about some of the players coming out of the Pac-12. As always, hit that subscribe button if you can, and hit the comments. I'm always answering them. I am OCD when it comes to responding. So if you post a comment, I will absolutely respond. And I want to thank you again for watching, and we'll see you again tomorrow or Wednesday. Thank you.